Welcome to the Bitcoin Business Podcast put on by Sovereign. I am your host, Brandon Karplus, and today I have with me a shrinkingly rare cohort of people, or maybe not shrinkingly, just generally small cohort of individual in the Bitcoin space, a Gen Zer, and a very young Gen Z. You might even be before Gen Z. I don't even know what that.
I'm Gen Z,
You are Gen Z. Okay, all right. Uh,
23.
23. Okay. Well, without further ado, Halston Valencia is with me, and she has been working recently. Well, you know what? Why don't I let you tell your story? And so, I know we've connected a little bit before, gone back and forth, and I know you recently graduated from college at USC. So, um, I'm I'm very curious. I have a lot of questions for sort of what people your age are thinking about Bitcoin and all this. But why don't you tell us your story of going to college, how you got into Bitcoin, why you got into Bitcoin, and what resonated with you? Because I remember when I was 23, and I'd always been interested in Austrian economics and that kind of stuff, but Bitcoin never really existed. Not never really. It didn't exist when I was that age, and I don't even know if I would have been ready to jump into Bitcoin at that age. I probably would have. I dragged my feet when I was, 15 years or 10 years older than that, anyways. So, all right. Sorry, I've just been rambling here. Why don't you tell us how you get into it, how college
Yeah.
was, etc. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, first off, thanks for having me. I think I have kind of a unique story because I went to college ultimately to study business economics and I was minoring in both finance and marketing. And so I was taking a boatload of marketing, finance, business, econ courses, but I was working almost three jobs. It was like one unpaid internship, one part-time job in food management, and then I was doing kind of like social media freelance. So three things just to get by, and I funded a lot of my own education. And I was in my third year in college when I was recommended the book Broken Money by ironically, one of the professors. And
Was it
after I
Nick?
read no, it
Oh,
wasn't.
okay. All right.
No, he's actually a professor that doesn't like to really be on the radar and kind of an OPSEC guy.
Okay.
Um, so even like him recommending the book, it was funny because I actually thought that he recommended the book because it was like a part of the course, but I didn't realize until much later it was just him recommending the book just to me. So, yeah, fun little fact there. I've since connected with him post grad, and he's
Yeah.
asked that I keep it under the radar. But
Nick's a great guy. Yeah.
Nick is a great guy.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they like are not letting him teach Bitcoin courses anymore at USC, so that's really
Does
unfortunate.
that really
But
surprise you though?
not at all.
I was
Not at
I was
all.
shocked he was able to do it at all, and so it makes more
Right. And
sense
for
that
so
he's no
long.
longer able to do it. So, yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunate, but I had read Broken Money after the professor recommended it, and this was right around after it came out, so I want to say it was late 2023. So I'm a junior at this point. And I read it and I was like, wow, this is interesting because I don't think we've really touched on too much of the content that's in this book in any of my economics or finance or business courses. And this seems like a grave issue. And so I read it and then I really enjoyed it because Lynn really helps the reader understand what money is. And she starts way back when and doesn't even mention really Bitcoin at first. And then, once I understood how Bitcoin could be a solution to all of these issues, that's when my interest was really piqued. And I started reading other Bitcoin books. This is all during my junior year, going into senior year. And I started reading, Saifedean's books, started listening to a ton of podcasts. And I think what helped me understand Bitcoin so quickly is that I was feeling the pain of the financial system in my personal life. And I realized you could go to a great school, you could get an excellent degree, and still feel very behind in life because the unit of account is constantly being debased. And so once I wholeheartedly understood that, that's when I kind of went all into this, liquidated my small portfolio at the time, and just became kind of a Bitcoin maxi. And now I get to work in the space. So that's my Bitcoin story.
That's awesome. So, along those lines, were you obviously going down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, and there's much better communities now than when I really started going down it, and there's a lot of there's a lot of ways to connect out there, and especially in
Yeah.
Southern California, you guys have some of the better meetups out there, and so I'm just curious though, it because it is lonely. I mean, as you're going through this, as you're realizing this, like as the light bulb turns on for you, you kind of realize, oh my gosh, everyone else. You talk about being in business courses and economics courses and never being taught this sort of thing. I was in banking, like in the actual heart of the fiat monetary system,
Yeah.
and I didn't even know. I had a business degree
Yeah.
from uh, Indiana University, a big, well-known business school,
Yeah.
and never learned a thing about banking or any of this stuff. And then working in banking, never even learned how the whole system worked, what treasury bills were, how the Fed prints money, all that stuff. And as
Yeah.
you start going through this journey, you start to realize, oh my gosh, nobody has any idea about this. This is so crazy. How does no one know about this? But I'm
Yeah.
curious, did you have any peers that you were connected to that maybe read the same book as you, or even you were able to talk about at university at all?
Yeah, there was probably only one out of hundreds of people that I would interact with. So it was a little bit of a lonely journey, but thankfully, shortly after graduation, my now fiance, we started dating and he was very much into Bitcoin, and so it was less lonely. But it was, yeah, very much like a speculative asset, treated like a tech stock when I was trying to like talk about it with other people. And the people that were buying Bitcoin, first of all, it was like on Coinbase, and it's like alongside Solana, XRP, Ethereum, tons of other cryptocurrencies because they were in it for kind of the get rich quick scheme, not really because they understood what money is or what how Bitcoin can solve a lot of our fiscal situation. So, definitely a lonely journey, but I will say the internet can be a beautiful place, and I think I started really taking X seriously and connecting with people online and then eventually in real life at conferences.
Gosh, I wish I was out at the Bitcoin for Financial Services conference in Denver, and a couple of kids from the University of Wyoming came up and gave a presentation on Bitcoin, and I was just I'm reminded. I was like, oh, I wish you. I'm like, your guys' future is going to be so great. You got Bitcoin
Yeah,
before the age of 25. You're going to be good. Like it's not all going to be easy. I'm sure there'll be bumps along the way, but in the end, you're going to be doing great. So I
I
I
completely agree.
I love the fact that some younger folks are getting this, and I'm happy for them, and I'm happy for the future that lies ahead. I wasted a lot of my life sort of in the fiat haze of just what you were
Mm,
talking about. Like I'm
yeah,
never going to get ahead. I'm going to be working till I'm 70. Like what? Great. Okay, it's all just kind of live for the weekend or the next vacation or
yeah,
something like this. It was I don't want to say it was hopeless, but it was just kind of like, eh. Like just we're just kind of in the
yeah.
drudgery of life, and um, didn't really have that
That high
joy.
time preference. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. It was just like live for the moment, live for what's going on now, take advantage of your time now, and don't look to the future because yeah, who cares? Like you're just going to
yeah.
be spinning on this hamster wheel forever. So I'm curious though, like what is the sentiment from people your age? Because I feel like it's getting worse. I feel like what I felt
Mm,
back then, I feel like it's even more pronounced as the debasement of the currency speeds up, that people are actually getting more and more nihilistic and
yeah.
more um dreadful of the future, not understanding the way out. But curious as to what you think on that.
I would completely agree with that, and I do feel like there is more financial nihilism prevalent in my generation because not to say that the millennials didn't have it just as bad, but I think my generation has seen some of the worst post 2020 inflation, and it has really dealt with the brunt of that. And so it's really tough. I feel like a lot of my friends from college I like no longer really connect with because they are so involved in that high time preference lifestyle that's just very much live now in the moment. Who cares about savings? Who cares about anything anymore? Because if they don't feel optimistic about being able to afford a future, what is the point? What is life? This is something I talk about pretty frequently. It's feeling like I can't really afford to start a family one day. That's something that I would say probably 75% of my generation is feeling. And actually, I think it's 1 in 4 Gen Zers and millennials don't feel like they can afford to have children and have decided not to have children. And a lot of people will say that we are seeing a decline in population rates because of feminism or because of any other political issue. But I really do think it comes down to the money. The money is broken, and if the money is broken and kids can't afford to, um, experience stability in their lives, why would they want to welcome another life into this world if they're struggling to take care of themselves? And so I would agree with everything you just articulated surrounding financial nihilism and the pessimism, and it's only getting worse with AI. I think a lot of people are um, feeling fearful of the next few years and if their jobs are at risk of being replaced by Claudebot or something similar, maybe even something better. And so it's quite the predicament we find ourselves in. But this is why I try to amplify the message of Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's so funny. If I didn't know any better and you told me that you were 23 and had a fiance, I'd be like either religious or into Bitcoin or both. And so
A little bit of both.
yeah, me too.
Yeah.
So it's funny. It's like those are the two communities I see doing that. But even even someone like me, my wife and I both made a good living, had a good job, and were religious as well, believe Christianity and in our faith. And but at the
Awesome.
same
Yeah.
time, at the same time, it was like I still struggled to just be like, how could I welcome a kid into this world? And it's like I
Mm,
it was like we have savings and okay, but like not enough to afford, my
yeah.
kid the life I want to afford it, which is also kind of like a bit of narcissistic thinking as well. And I regret having those thoughts today. But um, it's just like just start a family, get going. No one had kids into the perfect world because it doesn't exist, and
Yeah.
everyone you can always wait, you can always delay it, you can always make an excuse. But and same thing with marriage. It was I'm very fortunate that I got to meet my wife, and she's so wonderful, and I can't even imagine my life without her. But
Mm,
even just when I was younger, and out there, looking for a potential wife, it was just like, can I even really afford to get married? Like, what am I doing here?
yeah.
And just that angst of delaying all this stuff that shouldn't be it. And it really did affect my life. And to your point, you guys have just seen
Yeah.
it accelerated in your generation since 2020. And I just can't even imagine. Like, I see these. I learned.
Yeah.
Sound like old man Carpulus here, but I learned what like a. We went down to the St. Patrick's Day parade, and these people were all like walking around with these like I think they're called like bolo jugs. It was like blackout. I don't know. It was like blackout lights out or something, and I was just like, what are these kids doing? And it's just like,
Yeah.
oh my, like these kids are just walking around, just I mean, looking for like any way to escape reality. They're just
Yeah.
basically openly like, I'm just going to completely destroy myself because I don't really care. And I'm just like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
this is,
Yeah, that's exactly it. And a lot of to your point of what you were saying surrounding marriage and welcoming children, that is a sentiment that I really started to feel strongly um, in college. I really felt that way. I felt like I would never be able to get married, let alone have kids. And, I feel bad for the men because there's just like this kind of like toxic masculinity where like, oh, like the man has to provide. It's like, in this day and age, this is really tough to survive off of one income, and I feel awful. But even when I was in college, I was like, well, even if I wasn't dating my now fiance then, but I was like, even if I did find somebody that is good and I would consider marrying, how weddings are upwards of 20K, and it's like I would never spend that kind of money on a wedding like that. And then thinking about the future and having kids. And I was always someone that did want kids around, 26 to 28. In college, I had decided like that is not going to happen because this life that I'm living right now, this is not something I would want children to deal with. And if I'm struggling to pay for my tuition, my car note and all of these things in college, I can't even imagine when, 5 years from now and inflation is 10 times worse, what that's going to look like. And thankfully this was pre-Bitcoin. And so I say like PB. So this was PB. Post Bitcoin, I'm feeling much more optimistic, and you and I are both believers, and so I do place a lot of my trust in God and that He will provide. And I do thank God for Bitcoin, and I do feel very strongly that He will provide through this apex superior asset. And it, you know, I just can't imagine my life without having that kind of um, higher power to turn to and trust in. And I can't imagine how it is for the people that don't know Bitcoin and don't know God, because it's like, what do you turn to? And I think we see that in the degeneracy. We see that in the alcoholism. We see that in the trading, in the I say trading, but gambling, the prediction markets. We see it in every area of desperation of just trying to make money off of something. And I think we see it too in young girls and in the rise of OnlyFans and pornography. And it's truly just a really sad world we are living in because of the money being completely broken.
Yeah, and you're a fool to not do those things, right? Because
Yeah.
you have a guarantee if you stay in the fiat monetary system, you have a guaranteed failure. 100% failure. Say for the majority of society. Sure, there's people that are going to earn lots of money and be in the top 10%, and they'll be fine. But sort of the middle of the population curve, if you will, like you're guaranteed to fail in this system.
Yeah.
You cannot get out of it. You will be stuck in it unless you take a chance on something. And so instead of starting a business or something like that, which is something riskier or taking a risk or whatever you want to call it, it's almost like, why wouldn't I have a guaranteed failure rate if I do
Yeah.
nothing. Why wouldn't I roll the dice? Because even that 0.1% chance is better than a 0% chance. And
Yeah.
so it's almost like you're foolish not to do these things. And so along those lines, people my age and when I really got into Bitcoin, it was much easier to sell people on sort of the idea of just put some of this in your portfolio, start learning about it. Like you already have a stock portfolio, or you already have a retirement account, you already have some savings, you or whatever. It's like, so just carve a little portion off and sort of get people in the door that way and a little more established in their careers. But does the actual message of like, hey, there is an exit to this system, this sort of nihilism, this I didn't really have to sell that to the people I was talking to about it. But I'm curious, does that message resonate with people, or is it like, yeah, whatever, okay, I
The
don't care.
financial nihilism.
Yeah, that like there's an escape from this, and
Yeah.
that these people actually are wanting. They're not just like, I don't want to just have $1 million. Like, I just want to be able to have a job, provide for my family, raise a
Yeah.
family, get a house. Like, is that message resonating?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I would say even with my graduating class, a majority of us really struggled to find jobs post grad within 6 months. Thankfully, I had started already working in college. Right before 6 months prior to graduation, I already had a full-time job that I was at. But a lot of my peers did not. And it took upwards of 6 months to secure that job. And then when they did, it's, paying 65, 70 grand a year and living in Los Angeles. That's just not, it's not conducive to a comfortable life. Not even asking for anything luxurious, just the basic necessities. And I actually now no longer live in California because of that very reason. It's too costly, and entry level jobs uh, they don't suffice. And so I would say definitely there is that message does work and it does help in orange pilling. At least what I've seen, with people in my circle, it does really resonate because we are feeling the pain of the financial situation. And so that's usually what I try to start with when I'm trying to orange pill somebody is ask them about how they feel towards inflation. Do they feel like they're able to really save a meaningful amount? Do they feel like they can afford a future with children and marriage and all of those things? And a lot of people will say no, and a lot of people just kind of give up on saving altogether. And they give up on that initiative, and then you add in a portfolio, managing a portfolio, and they're like, I don't even want to touch that. It's too risky because they just feel so they feel like their paycheck is stretched thin right now. And so I would agree with that, and I do think that my generation is really feeling that message.
That makes me excited. I'm glad to hear that, and that's something I've been trying to work on more is kind of finding the pain point for people and trying to explain Bitcoin to them through that lens. And back in the day or before, when I would try to introduce the concept of Bitcoin to someone, I would always just be like, it's the best performing asset. You should put your money in it because you're going to make more money. And it was like, but a lot of people don't care about that.
Yeah,
And some people, they're not looking to get rich. They really don't. They want to spend time with their family or take a vacation once a year or yeah,
yeah,
they're fine with these things and they don't want to worry about portfolio analysis or investment or diversification strategy. They don't even care about the money. Like if you told them tomorrow we were using matchsticks instead of US dollars, they would go, fine, I don't care. I just convert my dollars to matchsticks. Like,
yeah,
they don't, it's completely irrelevant. It doesn't mean anything to them. It's just like, this is how I function in society. And I'm much more concerned about
yeah.
functioning in society. I've had some conversations with other people where they're really concerned about the human rights side of things and
Mm,
oppressive regimes, and they do work with people overseas and in oppressive dictatorships and things like that. And it's like
mm-hmm.
these people just literally need a way to move money around, and they can't do it in the banking system. And um, getting cash is very difficult, and there's basically just no economy to do this for them. And then they hear the message of Bitcoin. They're like, oh my gosh, this could be a solution for these people. And so
Yeah,
just trying to find out what resonates with people about Bitcoin. And what's so amazing about Bitcoin is there's so many different ways it resonates with people, and just trying to find what that
yeah.
is for someone.
And it does vary quite a bit. I would say with my generation, a lot of it is that financial affordability crisis. That's the main pain point for, say, like my grandparents, for example. The pain they're Brazilian, and for them it was they dealt with hyperinflation in Brazil, and to the point where my grandmother, when she had three young kids at the time, was a single parent at that time, was willing to come to the United States with no money and no job lined up, not knowing a single soul. That's the level of desperation, and was able to thankfully come here legally and enroll in community college to learn English and then become a nurse. And then she worked in cardiology for almost 2 decades and was able to really live out that American dream. But how much better would it have been if she had Bitcoin at that time? And I think, even this morning I was tweeting about Brazil's Pix is what it's called. I'm not sure if you've heard of this, but it's this instant payment system. And Brazilians are okay with this like borderline CBDC. It's this government controlled system. This was released by the Central Bank of Brazil, and it basically they're desperate to use this because it's instant. There's no fees. It's literally like it's just a worse Bitcoin. And I'm like, this for them, this would be the pain point. If I was trying to orange pill a Brazilian, a native Brazilian who's operating and living under the Brazilian financial system, that is kind of what I would lean into. And then, for my mom, she's Generation X. I think a lot of them really wish that they could have done more with their lives. It's like they kind of just slaved away. They kind of made it. I mean, they didn't quite have the same level of wealth that the boomers got, but they lived an okay life. But they wish that they did more. They wish they weren't sitting in a cubicle for the last 30 years. And like my mom says all the time, like I feel like you just grew up and I didn't even get to really spend too much time with you. And it's true, she did work my entire childhood and wasn't able to be a full-time mom. And so I think that's a pain point that really works with trying to orange pill that generation. So I think it's interesting. There's different marketing techniques for from generation to generation.
Yeah, speaking of which, that's what you're doing now, correct? Yeah,
Correct. Yeah, I
yeah.
do marketing at Bitcoin Well.
Yeah, our good friends over at the Bitcoin Well, we love those folks and um, think what you guys are doing is great over there. So along those lines, one of the big focal points at Bitcoin Well, what they're trying to do is the idea of self custody and people getting their
Mm-hmm.
coins into self custody. And certainly us at Sovereign, we believe that 100% everyone should be taking self custody. We really make it a point to show how to do that, and if you're scared of that, how to make yourself unscared of that and take some personal responsibility. Is that a message that resonates with Gen Z? Like this idea that
Mm,
okay, if you want to escape this financial nihilism, if you want to get out of this, you do have to take
mm-hmm.
some personal responsibility. Bitcoin does require that. It is that something that people are willing to do? Because I have found that back when I was in corporate America and dealt with a lot of folks your age right out of college, they would get in. We had a rotational program at the organization I worked at, and they would get in, and it was almost like this complete dichotomy. There was like 20% of the kids that came in that were just incredibly sharp, incredibly motivated, willing to do anything, just took tons of personal responsibility. And then there was like 80% that were like, I'm owed this. I don't have time for
Mm,
you. I don't. You. I should be earning more money, even though I don't know anything. And if I didn't get this to you, it's what am I supposed to do about it? So
yeah.
I found just a huge chasm. It was like very few folks were
Mm.
kind of just in the middle, fledgling around somewhere between the two. But I'm curious as to what you think about that.
I think I've seen the same thing. I think, I do have a lot of Gen Z friends in the Bitcoin space. And so I think they're kind of anomalies though. But I'd say for a majority of Gen Zers, it's kind of like this, they have this this like victim mindset, this kind of just very prideful disposition in that like I deserve this. And unfortunately, I will say a lot of my generation feels like, like you were saying, like companies owe it to them. They should be making this amount of money because rent is this much, instead of saying, like, oh, I should be making this amount of money because I'm a hard worker or because my work ethic is so good. And I think this all, again, comes back to the broken money. They start developing this kind of sentiment because everything is so expensive. And so they feel like these are basic human needs, and they are basic human needs, but every generation has also had to work very hard for the things that they have. And so yeah, I would agree that there's quite the chasm there. And I think, that's the beauty of Bitcoin is I think it promotes this low time preference, work hard, stack as much as you can, and sit back and just enjoy your peaceful life. And I don't think that's something that fiat will ever be able to promote because it's a fiat dying currency. And so, yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, it's literally impossible for fiat to promote that. So
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I just the idea I feel like a lot. I feel like a lot of times we in the Bitcoin space we get defensive or we talk about let's not tell people they need to take personal responsibility and that sort of thing. But I
Hmm.
just think it's so important because even just having Bitcoin by itself, like okay, that Bitcoin's just another tool, right? And it's just a monetary tool for you to be able to store your time and energy and something that they can't make more of. We know all the memes, we know all the tropes, but really at the end of the day, it's just tool in the tool bag of taking personal responsibility, of taking your autonomy back, of having control of your life. And
Yeah.
so much of our society has just been outsourced to someone else. And we don't have to do that. Like we can,
Yeah.
Avi Burra, who I love, he talks about this all the time, is that you can just stop playing the game. You can just step out of the game that's been put in front of you, and you can just take your own personal responsibility, take agency of your life, and start doing things like personal custody, eating better,
Yes.
exercising, and being disciplined about things and having control over your life. And
Yeah.
those are just choices that one has to make.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting. I would completely agree with that, and I think the reason why I feel like we see so many people not really able to take agency for their lives is because you think about like the traditional school system. It's like you're kind of bred to follow all of these rules, and you have a lot of people making decisions on your behalf up until 18. And then you go to college, and it's like, okay, you get a little bit of agency, but you're still being constantly told what to do, still not a whole lot of autonomy there. And then you graduate college and you go work in a cubicle and you're again being told what to do, and you're provided with lots of direction. And so this like concept of personal responsibility is a bit novel to some folks. I think for me, I've always I growing up really struggled with ADHD, and um I it was hard in elementary school specifically because once I understood a concept, I could not work on that any longer. I wanted to move on to the next subject, the next learning, and the traditional school system is not conducive for that. And so, teachers really hated me because I was like, okay, once I understood this whatever math problem, I was like, I'm done and I'm zoned out and not really paying attention anymore. And it's like thankfully, that became something I was able to use as a superpower in college because it made me a very ambitious person and made me crave being able to work for myself. And so, like even now, I'm an independent contractor. I'm not really employed by anybody. I take on a lot of gigs. Bitcoin Well takes up a majority of my time, but I do lots of side things. And I think it's tough because public schools especially, they really really push down this idea of following order, following instructions. They don't inspire curiosity, and they expect you to be this compliant employee, which to me is like this the whole school system was designed so that you could then go be a compliant employee in a cubicle for 40, 50 years. And so yeah, I
There's no
think this
doubt
per
that's
this
how it was designed. So
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's even I was just talking about this on another podcast yesterday. Is like the universities, the top 10 to 20 universities in terms of like business schools, they have direct partnerships with all the firms on Wall Street. So they just send their employees straight from your Econ 506 to some investment bank. So yeah, it makes perfect sense as to why they would um, teach Canadian economics and not really encourage any critical thinking outside of what they're teaching. So
yeah, I mean, you look into the history of how the school system was started, what it was trying to teach, and my wife and I decided long ago that we just had our first child last year, but we're like none of our
congratulations.
thank you. We're like none of our kids are going to public school. That's just absolutely
That's
out of
good.
the question. So yeah, and
Yeah.
we certainly want to focus on more of a more of a homeschooling or sort of co-op schooling where
Yeah.
kids are actually free to learn what they want to learn and things that actually interest them. And
Yeah.
I mean, I I see kids walking around the city and driving. I drive through a college campus quite frequently in on Chicago, and just everyone looks miserable. Like
Yeah.
it's everyone just looks so. Like I'm going to the next thing. I have to be in
Yeah.
the next class. I don't want to do any of this stuff. And I think we're finding more and more that homework is basically completely useless. It's really just an instrument of
Yeah.
torture and all this stuff. And everyone, and that's how I felt too. I spent my youth just in total misery, just staring at the clock. When do I get out of
Yeah.
here? when is the next thing? And even playing sports and stuff was, I enjoyed
Hmm.
playing sports, but then it was like I knew when practice was done, I would have to go home,
Yeah.
I would shower, I would eat, and then I would shower, and then it was like I spent the rest of the night doing homework, and
Yeah.
it was just such a miserable existence, and no one's happy. No kids actually like school. There's like the
Yeah.
5% that are weirdos that actually enjoy all the curriculum and whatever, but for the most part everyone's just going through because
Yeah.
that's what we were told. Go be a dutiful good worker. This is how you get a good job, and then
Yeah.
when you're done with all of this you'll get a job. And but then it's like, well, now you're just a slave to the job. So you just
Exactly.
spend your whole life working for someone else, not doing what, being guided by someone else to put you through. And then there's just moments of life where it's like, okay, you get a reprieve from that. You just get an escape
Yeah.
from that for a little bit. And it's absolutely mind numbing that's how we go through life. And then that again
Yeah.
gets back to the idea where you can just step out of the game and you
Right.
don't have to participate in that. And then when you do, you're just kind of like, oh my gosh, what was I doing with my life? What
Yeah.
was how much time did I waste doing this? And how many people in society are just withering away as like indentured servants to all these various institutions that have
Yeah.
just been shuffled around their whole life.
Yeah, no, exactly. I really resonate with all of what you just said. And I think too, going back to when I reflect on my high school years, I went to a private Christian school, so not public for high school, but still not ideal. And I remember in high school being probably in the most depressed state I've ever been in. And on paper, lots of things looked like it was going my way and things were going I was doing well academically. I was playing both basketball and volleyball and really doing well in those sports. Had, a really great friend group. Everything on paper kind of made sense and you would think, oh, you must be very content, but I was so depressed because first of all, think about just the way that schools are set up. It's like they put all these kids in tiny little classrooms under fluorescent lighting. You get a 30-minute lunch break and maybe
Maybe
a
a
10 to
window.
15-minute, maybe a window, maybe a
Maybe
window
a
if you're
window.
lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, so first of all, not even conducive to like one's health and like biology. But secondly, it was like I remember in high school I had zero period and I started at like I think 6:50, if not around like 7 a.m. And then I'd finish my last period around 3:50 and then you go straight to sports practices right after that and then you do homework up until midnight or sometimes even 12:31. And all of that was for college applications. And it's like I was taking way too many AP and honors classes just to have a shot at getting into college. And I think that's what led to that kind of whole depressive state I was in. And then it's like we have parents wondering why their kids, their high school kids are sad and depressed and just want to be in their rooms on the weekends in a dark room playing video games. And it's like they're looking for an escape from a system that hasn't, like, their lives haven't even started per se. They're still in this like high school era, but they're already suffering from the brokenness. And so yeah, I think that's really awesome that you guys have decided not to opt out of that, and I plan to do the same, I think. I just can't imagine putting my kids through what I went through and you know. So,
I
yeah.
agree. I mean, you were a much better student than me. I didn't stay up that late doing homework, but I didn't have the best. I didn't have the best grades in the world either. So, I was I was always much maligned in my household. You can do better. You're smarter than this. I'm like, yeah, but I just don't care. I'm sorry. And so
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
but it was hard. I really couldn't see the point of doing some of this stuff. It was just
Mm.
I'm never going to do this. I don't want to do this. I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm never going to read these goofy English literature books. I have no interest in any of this stuff. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just not going to do it. So
Yeah. And that's really tough, it's oh boy, I just really do think that's why we've seen such a increase in depression and anxiety and those rates because, well, okay, start with elementary, middle school, high school. you're throwing kids into these tiny classrooms, not a ton of autonomy. They're not able to study anything that they actually are passionate about. And then you tell them that they have to basically be perfect. I mean, you look at the way that college acceptances go now and that whole admission process, it's awful. I don't wish that upon my worst enemy. It was truly the worst time of my life. And then it's like, okay, they get to college and they're like, okay, good school, good degree. I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna get that job that's gonna pay me six figures, and I'm gonna have this amazing title, and my return will be seen within 2 to 3 years based on my college investment. And that's just so far from the truth. And so, yeah,
Yeah,
that's why I love Bitcoin.
I was hit in the face with that cold reality too when I
Yeah.
was offered. I'm not even laughable what I was offered for my first job, and I took it because I didn't have any other options. So
Yeah.
that was the plan. But yeah, the ability, but that's the black pill. The white pill is that we do have Bitcoin. We have all the
Yeah.
stuff that's going on with AI now, and just this the ability for individuals to take a lot of this control back into their life and have opportunities like the gatekeepers at all this stuff, the university piece of paper, that said I could do math. It's like, well, you could just ask me to do math and I could prove it to you. But well, no, I have
Yeah.
this piece of I'm actually staring at this piece of paper right now that says I can do math. So,
Yeah.
but we're getting to this point where all of these all of these sort of structures and inhibitants to you being able to have control of your life really is getting broken down, and it's so exciting for the younger generations and the opportunities that they're going to have to exist outside of these sort of walled gardens and everything. So I'm
Absolutely.
super bullish on humanity and excited to hopefully help um, you know be part of the transition team as these younger folks grow up and don't suffer the brain rot that many of us have had to deal with, and get a
Yeah.
chance to create just a much better world.
Yeah. I'm very optimistic as well, and I think I see a lot of the optimism within the Bitcoin community, but I don't see it in my peer group outside of this community. I think that's why I've become so passionate about trying to amplify this message because you see a lot of pessimism now with AI, and I see this as I'm very optimistic about the way that we can now build anything we want. I always say like we have like my generation specifically has the internet for instant reach and we're able to tap into different audiences instantly. We have AI that allows us to build anything we want, research anything we want, learn anything we want instantly. And we have the best money there is, which is this incorruptible money of Bitcoin. And like no other foundation has ever had all three of those things. And so if you understand that and you leverage that, I think you will have a very, very bright future. The problem is, how do we then, how do I amplify this message to the normies that are stuck and feeling very just pessimistic about their futures? And yeah, that's why I try hard to use my marketing skills to help with that. But I just wish more people could understand the amazing opportunity we currently have right in front of our eyes.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to watch people sort of reject it. Like I
Yeah.
promise you, I will be making your life better. Not I won't be. You will be making your life better.
Yes.
But I'm trying to explain to you how you will make your life better, and you don't necessarily want to hear the message. But it's one of those things that people will come around and they'll be forced into it. And let's be honest, like the education system as it stands today, just it'll never exist on a Bitcoin standard. It's just
Right.
it's not even
Yeah.
it's not even possible. So like
No.
it is
Yeah.
destined to fail. The
Yeah.
legacy media system, this pipeline like you're talking about from these handful of schools straight to Wall Street and everything. That won't exist anymore. And so
Yeah.
you will have a breakdown, a lot of these barriers, but at the end of the day, it is what we were talking about earlier. Is you still have to take personal responsibility, and you have to be in control of your life. And I'm excited for your generation. I think you guys have incredible opportunity. Um,
Yeah.
just you guys just need to get out of like the black pilled mind frame.
I
It's like
know. It's
all this potential
awful.
to be released.
Yeah. I know. And thankfully, I don't give up on my on a lot of my friends from college, and I still every day try to orange pill them, but there is so much pessimism and negativity within my generation. And then it's like, the other day I was talking to somebody at the gym about Bitcoin, and they're like, "Oh, you mean the pedo coin?" And I'm like, "Oh my goodness, we need to stop with this cancel culture and like let's just use our critical thinking skills here for a minute." Like in this case, like Bitcoin was used as a tool. So because Epstein used a car, does that mean I'm no longer going to use a car? I'm not going to use the
Ray
internet,
Ford was a pedophile. You
Gmail?
didn't know that? Yeah.
Yeah.
He might have been. I don't
So,
know.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I
It's
try,
hard.
but
But yeah, it's yeah, all these things that just get parroted back from the media and everything. But
yeah.
people will figure it out. People will come around, and hopefully we can make this happen sooner rather than later. So
Yeah.
did you start working for Bitcoin Well when you were in college or no?
No, so
No? Okay.
I started at a traditional marketing agency in Los Angeles, and so I was doing that pretty much 40 hours a week while finishing my last few courses. It wasn't too heavy of a course load in my final semester, so I was able to handle that. And then after I kind of developed, I think I racked up about 6 or 6.5 months of marketing experience. I decided to start looking for jobs within the Bitcoin space because I was miserable. I was doing traditional and digital marketing in the CPG space. And so I was like, I don't feel good about this. It doesn't align with anything I believe in. I am making Americans fatter and I hate that. And so I was like, I need to really step away from this job because I hate amplifying that message when I could be using these skills to amplify a better message.
What
And
were you
so I started looking.
sorry, go ahead.
What was that?
I was curious as to what you were peddling, or what you were helping to peddle.
Let's just say lots of Johnson and Johnson
Ah,
products, and
okay. Okay.
yeah, uh,
Okay.
yeah. So I didn't love it, and there were some campaigns I felt good about, but I would say a majority I went home not feeling good about. And so I decided one day I woke up and decided to go to bitcoinerjobs.com, signed up for all of the Bitcoiner job newsletters, and um, I started looking on Twitter every day, and it only took a week to come across a tweet that my now boss Adam had put out about looking for marketers at Bitcoin Well. And so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna shoot him a DM, and in the DM I was very concise. I was like, hey, my name's Halston, I'm 23. This is my experience. Want to jump on a call? And he was like, yeah. And so we jumped on a call, and then I think we did two more calls after that, and that's how I kind of ended up with that job pretty quickly. And I think I was still at the agency when I graduated, but then around, I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks after graduation, I found the Bitcoin Well job. So
It's
very
awesome. Yeah.
quick.
It
Yeah.
That's good for you. And I mean, it is crazy when you make the switch from that. You didn't spend that much time in that world. I spent
No.
a lot of time in that world, but just the second you make the switch over, you're just like, oh my gosh, everyone here is so much more competent and driven and excited to
Yes.
be here. And it's just a refreshing way. I just I'm reading actually Atlas Shrugged for the first time, and I'm like halfway through. And
Okay.
of course, a lot of Bitcoiners talk about it, and but like the comparisons really are. I mean, it's just like exactly what's going on. Like the productive people in society are all
Yeah.
exiting and then working together, and meanwhile they're being held back by all these folks we're talking about, sort of the victim, the grievance folks, and all the politicians and everything. But it's like that the spirit of entrepreneurship, productivity at the end of the day, that it overcomes all these negative externalities and forces.
Yeah,
And such a great message
absolutely.
that
Yeah.
you it's palpable the second you get into the Bitcoin world. So
Yeah, absolutely. I will say that, I didn't spend too much time in the like corporate normie world, but I did do a lot of internships throughout college. And that's like the one thing I was like, is this really how the corporate world operates? Like,
yes,
we
it
just
is.
have meetings for everything.
Hmm.
Like there were so many times I'd get called into a meeting and it's like, this so could have been a 30-second email. I'm not sure why we're being so inefficient with our time here. And it's like, yeah, the minute you work in the Bitcoin space, it's like you realize that everyone's way more efficient and way more on top of things too. I would say a lot more people are cognizant of what's going on in the world, not just in the Bitcoin space in financial terms, but just in general, which I think really helps just be more productive. So yeah,
Yeah. The amount of horror stories I could get into from the corporate world. I mean, you just look at it and you're like, once you understand Bitcoin, you're just like this world will never exist on a Bitcoin standard. Like
exactly.
it's
Yeah.
impossible. The amount you're just like you just look around you, you're just like waste, waste, waste,
Yeah.
waste, waste. Lack of
Yes.
productivity, and it's
Yes.
yeah. And then you get in the
Yeah.
Bitcoin world, and it's like everything's super tight. There's like zero waste, and
Yeah.
everything is about margin maximization, and it's just completely a different world.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Valencia, I know we're coming up. Oh my gosh, I called you by your last name. Sorry, Halston.
That's
Well,
okay.
yeah, we're coming up on you're the rare exception where you're a female with like two first names. So
Yeah.
usually it's the guys that have that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so apologies, especially
No
and
worries.
you have a Hispanic last name that ends in the feminine as well. So yes,
Yeah.
so,
I
yeah,
I honestly I love both names, so I'm fine with
okay,
whichever.
all right. Well, that was 100% on me. So apologies, but
No
um,
worries.
thank you so much for coming on. Do if people want to get in touch with you and connect with you, where should they go?
Yeah, I am primarily active on X, just at Halston Valencia. I've been tapping into LinkedIn a little bit more. Same thing, just Halston Valencia. But I try to stay pretty engaged with everyone on X and do spaces and all of that. And so you can follow me there. I'll also be at 5 or 6 conferences this year. So always love connecting with people in real life. I really do appreciate in-person human connection in a digitally native world. So please always say hi.
Are you on Naster?
I am on Oster as well. It's
Okay.
also, I believe, just yeah. Actually, it's in my X bio.
Okay. All right. Go
Yeah.
to check out Halston's X bio only so you can get her Noster Unpub and then come over there and converse with her there. So um big Noster supporters on here. As always, I'm plebeian
Love
on
it.
Noster, and you can find all the sovereign stuff on LinkedIn, X, all the traditional Instagram, all the traditional platforms. Just search for the word sovereign, SOVREIGN, so sovereign without the first E. And then the website is sovereign.io, where you can check us out. And we're also going to hope to be at the conference in Vegas. That's really the only plans we have for the year right now, but maybe more to come. So hopefully can connect with people out there as people are listening to this and thinking about making their plans. And hopefully maybe get to meet in person one of these days. Also, I met a bunch of your peers. I guess technically you're an independent contractor, so not your coworkers per se, but
Yes.
peers associated with the same organization. I've met many in person,
Yes.
so
They're all
hopefully
lovely.
they're great.
Yeah.
We love them. I love them. Fantastic. Very mission aligned. Very mission
Hmm.
driven, oriented, and have loved all of our experience working with them. So it's been great.
That's awesome.
So thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for your time, and great meeting you.
Great meeting you too. Thanks for having me. And yeah, love this chat and excited for people to hear it.